Good evening, friends. Welcome to another poetry show. Just finishing off some peanuts there. Listening to some nice laid back. Well, I'll leave that for you to guess. It certainly is laid back though. And this will be the post-Christmas listening to the rain in the new year. Pitter patter outside edition of the poetry show. I think I've lost count at this point, and that's not the only thing I've lost. So, 2013, but as far as poetry is concerned, it's always now. We've been dipping into Raymond Souster, recently passed into spirit, long-time Canadian poet and editor and mover of modernism. His 1997 book, or is it that 1987? 1987 book, The Eyes of Love, partly featuring poems he wrote for his wife in the early days of their relationship, circa 1946-47. The bench on the side of the hill. We found it quite by chance, the bench on the side of the hill. There it was, halfway down, crooked between two slender trees. And suddenly we had lost our curiosity, or whatever it was, to carry us farther. So we stayed there till the sun had lost us and the night was cold, with only our mouths really warm, in a place very silent and dark, with somehow singing and shouting through my head. Oh, why can't all the world? Oh, why can't all the world move toward its golden center as we move closer and closer to our dream of love? And people having all the beautiful bodies given them, how is it they have any time left to cheat and kill in any name, in any cause righteous or evil, when it is summer and the nights are long, and all the air shaken with the silver of little bells? Escape. This golden afternoon, our feet tug at all the roads, our noses sniff all the clover, our arms and legs glow with the touch of the sun. Our eyes are fed on browns and greens and blues that are the grain, the meadow grass, the sky. All under the boundless heavens today are spread, these riches not to be measured by money, flesh of women, rule of power. And you and I, walking hand in hand on this dusty country road, forget the city behind us, city with its smoke, its dirt and evil, and for an hour or two slip loose of the loathsome chains tied to our hands, to our bodies, something always seeking to clutch that star of hope, still burning so distantly, yet so brightly now in our twin stirred hearts. Your eyes, your words. Your eyes eat into my stomach, pierce me like a spear to my very bowels. I am as one who lies on the battlefield and gropes but cannot find his wound. Your words are food to my lips, good grain, luscious fruit, or they can lash with the cut of 20 whips, one after another. These words that ease themselves from your kiss-aching throat. Well, lovely. And hopefully we'll get back to that someday. There's plenty more where that came from. We've read some Suzanne Buffam before. Here's another book, 2005, Past Imperfect. Published by Nancy, I think? Yes, published by Nancy. Stones. Think of a glass, a tall glass of water. Think of it on a table in a panel of sunlight. Think of the small bubbles rushing to marry the sunlight, bursting with hurry. Think of the column of buttons done up in a hurry along the small bones of the back, and the trail of footsteps that doesn't turn back, leading down to the harbor, where 3 boys mark the blue of the harbor, turning into the blue of the distance. Think of a woman staring off in the distance while she worries the stones at her throat. Now hear it breaking, the rain of dark stones, striking the floor at her feet. The bridge. A strong wind corrugates the surface. Eddies collect and sip at the edges. Light splits and scatters all component parts. The bright blue scales slap up. Particles of ash, particles of history drift in from the distance. I stand on the bridge looking down. An equal and opposite force presses back. Burning leaves, steaming tarmac, fallen twigs lifted and ferried downstream, met by the wind's swift resistance. Your voice in my ear, breathing foxglove. Meanwhile, but could not keep, so let seep in the wind, so rolled the windows down and let it roar, so felt the finger bones inside me find the fingered thing inside this foreign core, so thickened by the inches, minutes, and the miles, it hurled us into onwards, and so through the wet blue rolling landscape, meanwhiles made of where were quickened and most true. So made of us a place we can return to when we're far. We're far from where we've been so far and who. It's you to whom I'm speaking now, so far from you with whom I lie down when we're through. So loosed the breathing, we inside, we are. We are indeed, Suzanne. Alice Burdick. Her newest book, Holler, has been out for some months, but it has only in the last few days found its way to the poetry show. After much waiting. Champion sleeper. Each day it's so gravity. Hip bones slip apart and the spine declines to remain upright. Kick sand into the dream. The doors are open for charity purposes. Residents will feel a dangerous breathe, a gathering source of progeny. Eyes open into a dark and veinlit pod. Does the squid see our dreams and graft the present from these? Jars of water over years become more air. After all, you can't defy water and air. They ignore disdain. Monstrous seizures in boardrooms on the 34th floor. We should send a letter from our cave in the mouth of a compliant duck. Shadow of a serrated edge on the guava can. Twins of spruce look out for the birch that fall to the scythe each June. Everything is an import. Drool will make me the champion sleeper. Traitor to beauty. Folds everywhere. Age fugue. Just because I'm weird doesn't mean I'm wrong. Put that in your heart and smoke it. I walk through the clouds over the post office, heave off the mist everywhere, socks drooping as usual, but not necessary because I'm flying. Is the theme of this year offense? Why is each slight deflected into hurt feelings? Victorian miasma of don't say that. 40 must mean I call bullshit every damn day. Flammable eyes, built-in dehydrators, mystical antecedents with the names Mom and Pop, peeping out through the smoked-up antique store glass. Why make me be? How did that happen? It's a glorious road with no stop signs, but many crosswalks that must be obeyed. Please, just look and wait, so it doesn't feel like you want to kill my family and me. At some point, perhaps yesterday, or when I'm 80, I'll know the reason for all these stinking time bombs. Perhaps when I'm 80. Which isn't that long. I have referred to the dark archives downstairs from time to time. And one more discovery. Something I'd thought about for months for inclusion in the show, but couldn't find. Lillian Necakov's Polaroids. An old favorite of mine. From goodness knows when, the 80s, the 90s, quite a while ago. 1997. Poems reflecting on the experience of movies. The Journey, after Jane Campion's The Piano, 1993. Midnight and long ships have brought her to him, journeying over the rivers of time. She arrives on deserted beaches until what he hears are her fingers stroking the keys. Then ribbons of unimaginable happiness slip through his hands. Falling at her feet, music crashes into him from every direction. Midnight and the forest takes her away from him, until she arrives again days later to lie with him under the heavy palms, under his piano. until he understands the journey of her silence, until he speaks from a place of unimaginable rapture, until the long ships take them to the very bottom of the ocean, where the echo of his voice will fade from her lips. Werner has gone mad. Hasn't he, though? Several times. After Les Blanc's Burden of Dreams, 1982. I once sat behind Christopher Dudney at a Werner Herzog film at the Review Theatre. About, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. How did I know it was him? The profile as he stood up to leave, I think. I thought, oh my God, I've watched an entire Werner Herzog film with Christopher Dudney. Small moments in Canadian literature history. Very small moments. Infinitesimal, actually. But, that's life is made up of very small moments, all strung together like, beads on a necklace. Anyway, Werner has gone mad, as sometimes I think I have. Les writes letters from the Amazon. He's waiting for coffee. Werner has gone mad. He's dragging ships across mountains. They compare tattoos. Werner writes letters to his parents. The jungle is in him. The heat like arrows in the flesh is necessary. Les photographs the burden of Werner's dreams, while no letters arrive home. Werner tells us the devil is right here, speaking to us in jungle language. Werner photographs collective murder. Crazed by the wrath of his imaginings, he drops us into a steamboat of catastrophe, spinning wildly downstream, and lets us into our own seasons of hell. Les and Werner have made the trip. They have documented the trance. The jungle is woven up inside them. They will carry it with them like an opera on the very tip of their hearts. Have my on the road bookmark already. The excitement is building. Speaking of on the road and our favorite Americans, here's Billy Collins. Horoscopes for the Dead. We've had a little look at this. Let's have another little look. The chairs that no one sits in. You see them on porches and on lawns down by the lakeside, usually arranged in pairs, implying a couple who might sit there and look out at the water or the big shade trees. The trouble is, you never see anyone sitting in these forlorn chairs, though at one time it must have seemed a good place to stop and do nothing for a while. Sometimes there is a little table between the chairs where no one is resting a glass or placing a book face down. It may not be any of my business, but let us suppose one day that everyone who placed those vacant chairs on a veranda or a dock sat down in them, if only for the sake of remembering what it was they thought deserved to be viewed from two chairs, side by side with a table in between. The clouds are high and massive on that day. The woman looks up from her book. The man takes a sip of his drink. Then there is only the sound of their looking, the lapping of lake water, and a call of one bird, then another, cries of joy or warning. It passes the time to wonder which. Memorizing The Sun Rising by John Donne. Every reader loves the way he tells off the sun, shouting "busy old fool" into the English skies, even though they were likely cloudy on that 17th century morning. And it's a pleasure to spend this sunny day pacing the carpet and repeating the words, feeling the syllables lock into rows until I can stand and declare, the book held closed by my side, that hours, days, and months are but the rags of time. But after a few steps into stanza number 2, wherein the son is blinded by his mistress's eyes, I can feel the first one begin to fade like sky-written letters on a windy day. And by the time I have taken into the third, the second is likewise gone, a blown-out candle now, a wavering line of acrid smoke. So it's not until I leave the house and walk 3 times around this hidden lake that the poem begins to show any interest in walking by my side. Then, after my circling, better than the courteous dominion of her being all states and him all princes, better than love's power to shrink the wide world to the size of a bedchamber, and better even than the compression of all that into the rooms of these 3 stanzas, is how, after hours stepping up and down the poem, testing the plank of every line, it goes with me now, contracted into a little spot within. Now, last time I saw Stuart Ross, he said he thought Ron Padgett was a better poet than Billy Collins. I'm not sure myself. I'd rather like them both, but maybe I'll develop more definite opinions as time goes on. Ron Padgett, You Never Know, the poem album. The mental pictures I have of my parents and grandparents and my childhood are beginning to break up into small fragments and get blown away from me into empty space. And the same wind is sucking me toward it ever so gently as not even to raise a hair on my head, though the truth is that there are very few of them to be raised. I'm starting to take the idea of death as the end of life somewhat harder than before. I used to wonder why people seem to think that life is tragic or sad. Isn't it also comic and funny? And beyond all that, isn't it amazing and marvelous? Yes, but only if you have it. And I am starting not to have it. The pictures are disintegrating, as if their molecules were saying, "I've had enough," ready to go somewhere else and form a new configuration. They betray us, those molecules, we who have loved them. They treat us like dirt. The love cook. Let me cook you some dinner. Sit down and take off your shoes and socks, and in fact, the rest of your clothes. Have a daiquiri. Turn on some music and dance around the house, inside and out. It's night, and the neighbors are sleeping, those dolts, and the stars are shining bright, and I've got the burners lit for you, you hungry thing. When George calls. I'm looking forward to the moment when George calls me from Italy to say that he's just gotten a phone installed. It is always a pleasure to talk to George when he's across the ocean, but it will be an even greater pleasure that he will be using his own phone to call me at my own phone. We will be 2 grown-up men talking on our own phones from our own homes. Why does that thought give me pleasure? Indeed, why does that thought give you pleasure? Why does any thought give you pleasure? Because we're thinking beings? Because Descartes said, I think, therefore I am? We're feeling beings, we're thinking beings, we're being beings, we're beings being, we're breathing beings. We're a lot of different beings. And be that as it may, the poetry show goes on. Life after life. John Donne to Ron Padgett and beyond. May 2013 bring you much, I don't know, stuff. Good stuff, happy stuff. The miracles of small moments as they tinkle by.